Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickle is a psychic medium healer, numerologist, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether it's through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there's always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. I'm Kelly Brickle on WLTKDB Let's Talk Radio. We're talking about all things psychic, mediumship, healing, spirituality, and today we have our interview series and we have Felicia Grant on, and she's a psychic medium, healer, and soul coach. So it's going to be wonderful to talk with her about her life and dive in. And we always start with the inspiration topic of the day. And I think it should be divine timing. I just let these things come, right? Just whether through inspiration or circumstance. And I really do believe that everything is divine timing. You know, we can't plan for things. We can plan to a certain degree. Sure. It's good. It's helpful, especially for some personalities. It's helpful for my personality to plan to a certain degree. But really, you know, there's intention, and the intention guides us to a place. It guides us to a moment or a person. But sometimes we, you know, end up in a situation we go, wait, what's going on? You know, or I didn't expect this to have this outcome. It could be like maybe you are, you know, interviewing for this dream job, or, you know, it's a stepping stone to a dream job, and you know, you're all organized, you're all set up, and it's just like womp womp womp. The day changes, the time changes. Or my favorite one, because everyone can relate, I think, like, you know, when you have a reading, whether you're receiving a reading or you're giving a reading, all of a sudden the reading has to be rescheduled. Or, you know, Zoom's not working, right? Because there's those silly updates. That's always so fun, surprise updates with technology. And you go, well, why is this happening? And I really, really trust in divine timing. I really, really do. In every circumstance, I have found when, let's say, there's a rescheduling or a time shift or a chime change, whether the person or myself needed that extra grounding or that extra time or whatever next moment, it's usually even better than the first one could ever provide and ever, you know, give and gift. And so really quick, I want to say hello to everyone coming in. Hello, Rez. Hello, Kevin. Hello, Jessie Cat. Hello. Welcome. And I really, really do trust. And life will make you trust in so many different ways, where you'll have, you know, emotions of why would I ever want this? Why is this even helpful? Even with people, like people's reactions, people's communications, people's understandings. You know, you'd go, why would I have a friend or a person in my life that would ever react like this or even treat me like this? Well, it's the divine timing of it all. It's we bring situations to ourselves and others that we have to enact for our greatest spiritual understanding and healing, for our next step. It's all a progression towards our next step. It really, really is. And sometimes it can feel really scary or really confusing, right? And sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like, I couldn't have planned it better myself. And that's the whole thing. You can't, whether it's good or bad, you couldn't have planned it better. If it was yourself, because the universe is planning it for you. And the power of intention can help us meet some of those divine moments, because our higher self enacts, you know, the higher consciousness, and we enact that bridge. We enact that intention of, okay, I want to be on that stream where I can be creating and receiving at this higher level. So I reach out, and when you reach out, yes, your vibration expands, your experiences expand. And again, people are sometimes confused by their manifestations, but really, you got there faster. I promise you, if your intention was involved, because it's going to show you what's real. It's going to show you that, hey, maybe your want or desire was an illusion, or that's exactly your next step. It just continues to let you know about who you are, who is around you, what is around you, and takes you where you need to go. So divine timing, divine timing. I had a couple stories in mind. I had two that were like kind of floating in how I wanted to kind of share. But one of them, let me see if I can remember the other one. But one of them, I think I've talked about on the show before. Um, Timing in myself, it's a little funny because sometimes divine timing, I feel, not always, because we're growing within our spirituality. Always, we're growing to understand it's not always perfect. But I feel that if I kind of intend for something to happen, or if I ask for help and I'm very open minded, I can kind of follow that stream. So I'll go, okay, I'm doing this project, yada yada yada. Can you protect this project? Right? If it's something that needs to be done, can you make sure it goes through? Can you make sure everything's on time? Can you make sure whatever? So it's like whether I get sick, whether people change their plans, whether any other variable, if I feel very locked into the project, and I think that's like really part of it. If you feel grounded and locked in, and you're not only intending, but your whole being feels like this is important for me. I feel very connected to this. I feel like I'm a part of what's making this reality. And you say, hey, I need to get this done. What is it going to take for me to get this done? I find that things are usually protected around that, especially if you're the driving force. Sometimes there's other people leading and they're the driving force and you can't control that. You could have, a relationship with a partner who's one half of the will at hand and you can't control that completely. You could have a boss, right? You could have a parent, let's say, who has the upper hand in this situation, et cetera, et cetera. A friend that is again 50% of the intentional weight. But if it's mostly you, you can actually bolster and create things to happen. And I have found that when it is just me and my intention and focus and my fire is really locked in, no matter what happens, even if I get sick, it's like the energy clears and I'm able to do whatever I need to do on that date or those dates, or I get sick, or let's say there's a complication, because life is life. And that happens either the day after, 2 days after. And it's like my body and the climate around me or the situations around me know to make space for that. And so there's like a philosophy that I was given, and it was like the spiritual teacher, and her name is Sonia Choquette, and she's great. She's great. She like lectures a lot on living a spiritual life and being energy sensitive, being sensitive in a lot of different categories. And one time in class, she was lecturing about opening your heart as a portal, and you're pulling experiences to you, or whether it's safety, whether it's some type of intention, because we're talking about a lot about intention and divine timing, but you know that you're going to get there, but you open up that energy so that you're sent there. And so that's kind of how I think things work. The heart is very magnetic, and there's so many frequencies that we're still always learning about, but your heart can pull in much more than your mind can. So, we have to think it, we have to dream it, we have to visualize it with our intention, but we really do have to feel it, and we have to believe, and we have to surrender to it. And that's the heart component of it. And there's some always very, very interesting occurrences. I'm sure, I've said the story before of how when I was younger that I would find myself always rushing to get to work on time, and I'd always be behind when I left. But I would say, as I'm driving, my heart is an open like portal. I would say a variation of that. And I'd say, get me to work on time, get me to work on time. And I'd always get there like a couple minutes before, or sometimes on the dot, and I would clock in right and on time. And I would get there sometimes where it wouldn't even make sense to get there. I'm telling you, I'd leave like 7 minutes late. Like I don't, and traffic was very consistent. So it can be sometimes we think it's mundane things, but really, if we're asking for help, we're asking for protection. And sometimes within a job, especially when you're younger, you need to make sure those things that are grounding you in life are protected. And if you're putting your heart and soul into things and you're really, really trying and doing the best that you can, life does support you. You have to be responsible, don't get me wrong, but life does support, life does provide, and divine timing does show the way. So I'm sure there's going to be many more stories that I can recall with divine timing. There always is. I'm always a fan of it. But with that said, we're going to be back in just a moment with Felicia Grant, and we will see you then. See you very soon.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.
And just like that, we are back. So let's bring Felicia in. Hello.
Hey Kelly.
How are you doing today?
I am good. I am calm and centered now. So good.
Good. Yes, technology is so fun.
That's true. It's true. And then I had this thought, oh, if my phone goes dead, now what? So we're all good. I'm all good. I'm all yours. So.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. And I want to introduce you to everybody. So with that said, Felicia Grant is a certified medium, energy healer, advanced soul coach, and Usui Holy Fire Reiki master located in Wilmington, North Carolina. She offers a variety of services such as mediumship, soul readings, energy healing, and holy fire Reiki and trance mediumship. Felicia is an international psychic medium who has received certification through the acclaimed Lisa Williams School of Spiritual Development, as well as the Advanced Soul Coaching certification from the International Institute of Soul Coaching with Denise Linn. Felicia has studied and certified with Tony Stockwell in the Art of Trance Mediumship, Trance Healing, and Trance Phenomenon, and her passion is to assist the healing of others through her natural talents and abilities to be of service to the spirit world. She has been helping women heal and transform through her Dragonfly Experience Retreats for women since 2010. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad you do this. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. And I say it all the time. I love to celebrate people because, you're doing so much for others where you're holding space, you're holding retreats, like actual physical, long, multiple week retreats. It's incredible what you do within your energy work and your readings and how you lift others up. It's wonderful, your leadership.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It feels heavy sometimes, but I appreciate that.
When did you? It does feel heavy. No, that's what I'm saying. It's a way to walk, to always continue to grow and transform yourself. And when did you decide to walk that path of, I want to learn about healing, I want to learn about energy? Was it a fascination? I always ask people, did you know about this within yourself when you were young, or did you come into a spiritual awakening?
That's a really good question. And, I've been thinking about this interview for a couple of days. The Virgo in me creeps out. But I think I was your typical, I would say stereotypical sensitive child. When we look back on children that are really sensitive. And I think, when I was a young child, I had this fascination for the things that weren't obvious, to a lot of people. And I never really fit in. It was like I was one of these kids. I didn't fit in with other children. I felt more comfortable in the adult world, being around other adults. And, this child, this sensing, this knowing about other people, things that I knew that other people didn't know, but I really didn't know why I knew them, I guess. And then I think at a certain point you go to school and you want to fit in and you want to be like everybody else. And I think at some point I just kind of stuffed it away. And I think probably when I was in my 40s was where it started to surface. And as you said, awakening. I had this awakening that there was more more than the physical that I could see. And it kind of was in my face at that moment, as having some weird experiences happening to me in probably in my 40s or so. I'm going to be 65 soon. So I'm going to say about 15 years ago, things started to really manifest for me in odd and strange ways.
So can you talk about that?
Sure.
Even just awakening to, like you mentioned, was it that you saw things, that you felt things, that you're remembering things?
Yeah.
Or like the fun one, was it even like a Kundalini awakening where you're just like, what is going on?
No, I wish. The Kundalini awakening came when I turned 60, but yeah, that feeling, that energy. What started happening to me, my husband and I had moved into a new home in Sarasota, Florida, and I was asleep at night and I started being awakened by this weird white light. We had a sitting room off our bedroom and it looked out over the porch. But anyway, it was a sitting room. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be this like weird white light, shining. And I was like, what in the world is that? And it wasn't frightening to me. It was just a light. I'd wake him up. Do you see that? No, I don't see that. And then we had a electrical box. They say spirit likes to mess with electrical, but we had an electrical box for our alarm system. And it was like the light on it, because we never set the alarm, but the light would get brighter and brighter and brighter. So we cover it, right? We covered this light. Well, the light's still getting brighter and brighter and brighter. So I'm like, okay, something's trying to get my attention. I don't know what's happening here. Why am I seeing this white energy light around me at night? I started having what I would say like prophetic dreams, and my grandmother was very clairvoyant and she dreamed about things. So I would have these dreams. I had a dream about my son in college that his car, the windshield crashed it crumbled in on him. He got out of the car and walked away. And I had this dream. I knew he was okay. A few days later, he calls me from school. He's in college. He said, the weirdest thing just happened to me. My windshield crumbled on the way home. And I was like, oh my God. So, it was those kind of little things that spirit was very slowly awakening me. And I believe it was, they didn't want to scare me.
Yeah.
I think it was coming really slowly. And yeah, and I can even, if you want, I can even share the first time I actually had what I felt was a spirit communication with me. This was all kind of in the same time frame. I was doing retreats and I had a client that was coming to Florida. She was bringing a friend and she wanted me to come do past life regression for her. I had done it at a retreat and I'm in the bathroom and I'm getting ready. And you know how some people say spirit talks to you when you're drying your hair or, when you're not really focused, right? And I'm in the bathroom and I'm getting ready to go because I had to drive from the west coast of Florida to the east coast of Florida. And I feel like there's a woman in the room with me, but I don't really know why, because I feel like there's a woman here, and I feel like it's somebody's mother, and I don't really know what's happening. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is somebody's mother in my mind. Okay, why is she here? And she's showing me a bear, like a she's saying Care Bear, like those old Care Bears with the, okay. So anyway, I get in the car. I feel like this woman's with me all the way from Sarasota to West Palm Beach, and she's riding along in the car with me. I don't see her because I don't see spirit. I sense and I feel. So I'm driving. I get there anyway. We got to dinner. I meet them for dinner, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna tell them. I'm just gonna. I knew this girl. She'd been to a couple retreats with me, and I just start telling them. Well, they both look at me like I'm crazy. And I really thought it was her mother. I didn't know that, but I thought it was her mother. And she said, no, my mom's alive. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, okay, never mind. So I keep eating, feel like an idiot. And about 15 minutes later, the girl with her says, I think it's my mom. And the short story, without getting into intimate details, this girl was a cancer survivor, had metastatic cancer, and was getting ready to adopt a surrogate baby. Oh. And her mother had died, and because she says to me, the last gift my mother gave me was a bear, and it has a heart on the chest, and it's sitting on my dresser. And I think at the time, I look back now, her mother was just trying to tell her everything was going to be okay, because she was really worried about, adopting or getting a surrogate baby and stuff like that. So that was the first time that I'd ever actually had a spirit communication that was tangible, that and then it happened, and then it started happening a lot more frequently.
So you had a experience where you were just very, very aware of a mother-like presence providing comfort, and you were very aware that this wasn't for you, and it really opened up. Was that the first mediumship experience you had?
I would say probably yes. Yeah. Yes.
And where did you go from that? Were you like, this is a thing I want to develop? Or were you just like, I don't know what this is? How did you conceptualize it even?
I thought I was going crazy, right? And not too long after that, my husband and I went out to dinner with some friends, and they were visiting from the UK. And I had a similar incident, we're out and we're having, wine and having a really good time. And I'm like, oh my God, and it happened to me again. So I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't really understand what was happening. I didn't know a lot about, this. I don't even know if, I guess Teresa Caputo was around or something. I don't know. But, I didn't have much experience with this. And in the meantime, I was going out to Scottsdale, Arizona to a conference that Denise Linn was at, Colette Baron Reed.
Celebrate your life.
Yeah. Divine Wisdom, though. It was a little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Remember,
I know what you're talking about.
And I think Doreen Virtue popped in for a short in and out. And this woman named Lisa Williams that I'd never met before. And
that year, yeah.
Yeah. So Lisa was one of the speakers, and she'd given us a weird exercise, and we were supposed to bring our spirit, close to us and give us a sign. And well, anyway, the workshop's over, and I didn't get my sign, and I buy her book, and I stand in line to meet her, and I go up, I'm right in her face, and I'm like, I didn't get my sign, I'm really angry about it. I did get my sign later on that night, but not, in the time that they were ready to give it to me. And she looks at me and she said, well, you're a medium. And I'm like, huh? I'm looking around, who's she talking to? And so she said, I know you are a medium. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? And she said, well, it's up to you, you, whatever. Okay. So, I leave and I blog all the way home about signs and stuff, because I did get my sign later on that night in a Mexican restaurant with a bunch of friends. And that was a whole weird story in itself. But shortly after that, so now we're at like 2015 or something like that. Shortly after that, I have a friend that's a Lisa person. And she sent me a message, Hazel, and she said, oh my God, Lisa Williams is doing a year-long mentorship for the first time ever. She's going to do a year-long mentorship for people, and you got to do this. And I'm like, I don't know. And I reach out to Lisa, and my whole thought, Kelly, was like, I'm going to pay this woman $3,300, because I remember it was a lot of money back then. And I'm going to have her tell me I'm not a medium, right? I'm going to spend a whole
no, not
year.
at all.
Yeah. And obviously, no,
Great,
you know, that wasn't the case. And I had the amazing experience to mentor with Lisa Williams for a whole year. We went to Lilydale. We were in her home 3 or 4 times. There was 15 or 16 of us that were the first people that she ever actually did like a year-long mentorship. And then I certified with her, obviously, the following year. So that was kind of my intro and my lead in, you know, to, am I a medium? Am I not a medium? You know, so anyway, yeah. So that was in 17, right? You were there when I was certified. So
Well, I remember, I remember, you know, meeting you, and I had, you know, no doubts. You were so fun, and you just were just off the cuff. I don't even know if you knew how natural you were. You know, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're just talking and we have no idea what's coming out of our mouth, or we don't even kind of think about it much, but you were just so natural. You really were.
well,
I really
you didn't
enjoyed
tell me
always
that
watching
then.
you work.
I was like terrified through that whole process. I remember like flipping out one time on the porch waiting, you know, we're waiting to go in to be certified. And I remember like sweat dripping down. What do you mean that's not what we're doing? You know, having this total like
I remember
meltdown.
that. I think about that time a lot. I remember I was like, oh no, because there was like instruction that we're going to do something in a certain order. And I'm like, oh, like, you know, it's been flipped. And I was trying to help people to be prepared. And then it's just like they decided to flip it. So I was like, no worries, everyone, just however it goes. And I'm like, maybe I should have done that a little bit differently, because I was trying to take away the anxiety, but like helping actually bred the anxiety. And I'm like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done?
It's funny you remember that, because I remember being like really like.
I remember looking at you and I went, oh crap.
Oh no. Oh my God, I'm really losing it right now. But you know, it's stressful because you're doing what you're doing. And you know, I wanted to first understand what was happening to me. I wanted to do this ethically. I wanted to train from somebody that I respected, you know, in this field. I've been very selective about the teachers that I've learned from, you know, and I just, you know, I wanted to, and I still continue to study and want to be the most ethical, authentic version of, you know, what I'm doing, because I have a lot of people come to me that want to be mediums right now. And I do just beginner's mediumship. And I have a lot of people that want to, you know, we're all awakening and things are happening, but it's not all. I was telling a girl the other day, it's not all picnic salad, noodles and picnic, whatever that thing is for that movie. I love the movie with Jack Nicholson, where he says it's not all picnics and noodle salad. And, you know, my point in saying that is, you know, it's not all sweet grandmothers coming through. You know, I've had people, you know, their son has taken their life, you know, as you have, I'm sure, or, you know, their daughter, you know, something, you know, and we're holding that person in the palm of our hand in that hour. And you don't want to harm them anymore, and you want to leave them better than when they got on the call with you. Hopefully you yes. Leave them better. So it's a lot of responsibility, and you want to do it the right way.
It's a lot of responsibility, and I do feel that, you know, spirit guides us to situations where, you know, we're learning, yes, but we're given situations where we really can help the person on a level. Maybe it's not a level we'd expect, because sometimes we look at help a certain way and we go, well, you know, in order for me to do a good job, I have to do this, and it looks like this, and I wanted to be everything and above. But in whatever way, like, you gave that person perspective or understanding, even if it was just a fragment of the spirit world. and just one piece of evidence that it could change their whole life.
It's true. We want 50 pieces of evidence. I was just doing a workshop in Canada, and I said, I wanted more. I was trying to get more evidence, during a reading. And, and he says to me, he's a Scot, and he's Scottish accent. Well, you just want the cherry on top. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I want the cherry on top. But, you could get to the end of a reading and just say, like you said, it was so profound what you just said, Kelly. You can say one thing to a person and that person's like, oh my God, that was my mother, or that was my whatever. And if you can give them that one piece of information that helps them know that their loved ones are still there, your job's done, right?
Right. And this work is so much, it's about knowing. It's very like, complementary in what it gives us. It's very full bodied because it's so much about knowing, but not knowing, because that evidence that you could even have given somebody, like for your experience, you don't get it until that night. So you could think in one area that you're maybe failing as a medium, but then they might come back and say, oh my God, it all makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I couldn't have pieced it together until somebody called me and validated, and
right.
or until I remembered. And it's just like we don't know. And sometimes what I've thought in certain readings where I'm like, wow, this is an excellent piece of advice, for whatever reason, they don't really care, but I could give them something else and they're like, oh my goodness. Yeah. It's like, we just don't know what hits.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. And, I've realized, because I've been doing this for a while now, I've realized that you just have to give them what you get. And if you don't get validation, that's okay. This is a funny reading. It was Thanksgiving or Christmas time. And I had a grandmother talking about drinking eggnog every day. Now, this is the simplest form of a reading, right? But she's talking about how she loved this time of year because she drank eggnog every day. And this girl's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, the next morning, you open the email. I talked to my mom, and guess what grandma did? She drank eggnog every day.
Yes.
And so, when you get those little nuggets, but then I've also realized you just got to let go and know that the spirit world, they know what they're doing, and they have an innate wisdom about what they're saying and why they're saying it. And you just got to let go, and you just got to, like, what was it James Van Praagh used to say, give what you get and don't be upset, and I've learned that with my retreats as well. People get the healing that they need. It's not necessarily up to us to figure out what it is they need, right?
Right.
We just surrender to that.
I think, as we grow, sometimes we can lean in to certain things that we understand a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And we can, sometimes walk with a certain energy where we go, yes, I do feel like I have mastery of this. And that is something we all obtain, we strive for and hope to obtain. Right. But as we're just growing and, we're in service, right? Like we just do the best we can. And I do think it's a tall order because, right, our understanding of if we're even doing a good job, sometimes we have to remove ourselves from even that experience. But actually, it's so fascinating because it validates the spirit world even further, because the person saying no to you, the person saying no to their experience, and then they know, wow, it is real, because I wouldn't even have known that. Right? Exactly. I didn't even know it to even say yes to. Someone else had to tell me about it.
That's true.
There's no way they could have looked that up. There's no, right? So it's actually like even more powerful, even though it's like terrifying at first.
That's right. That's right. Just going to tell you this. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but yeah. So it's true. It is true.
What I want to ask you so many things because like you're like, oh, at 60, like things really open up. I'm like, okay, I need to know, but I need to ask you about your soul coaching too. So I'm going to have you pick. Usually I don't have people pick. So you have the power, Felicia. Would you
Ooh,
like to talk about would you like to talk about your Kundalini awakening or your soul coaching? Because I really want to know about both.
Well, soul coaching's easier, but soul coaching, I can do that really quickly. Soul coaching was a jumping off point for me. I had always been a mother and a wife and a businesswoman. I worked in corporate America and finance and all that stuff. And in 2012, my husband gave me the gift of 10 days of being on Denise Linn's ranch to certify in soul coaching. I'd never gone anywhere and done anything for myself. And it was just kind of, I was doing retreats, but I was kind of just doing retreats, blindly, as I've done a lot of things in my life. And the soul coaching for me was really just a springboard for me to jump more further into spirituality and to open up to the true authentic person that I am, to realize and embrace who I am as a person. I used to hide a lot about who I am, and retreats are a great example. I didn't want to say to people I was a medium because I'm like, okay, what kind of people are going to come to the retreats and what are they going to expect, and that kind of thing. So I think that soul coaching, and when I did advanced soul coaching in 2014, which was right before all this mediumship just cracked open for me. That was a really deep, Denise put us through this another like 7 days of deep looking into yourself, why you do things, why you feel a certain way about things, why you're conditioned, to, like, a good example, why do I feel insecure? Well, I can look back at 1,000 ways about why I feel insecure, but looking at, the reasons that shaped me at a very young age into the person that I am today. So, while soul coaching was more like a tool for me in my tool chest of things that I do, and it was a really good fit with my retreats. I would say just briefly I want to mention the Kundalini awakening was that I feel like something happens to a woman as she gets older, 55 and 60, where we start to really embrace who we are. We let our hair go the natural color it is. I began to feel things more deeply and more strongly throughout my body, so to speak. I don't know if it's PG rated or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Women, I think at a certain point, we get to where we're not having children anymore. We go through menopause and we start to embrace who we are, our sexuality and who we are. And hopefully at some point we start to love who we are. We're able to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, man, you are just smoking, or that kind of, what I'm saying? Like, yes. We teach what we need to learn, right? Because I've always been really insecure about my body and things like that. But I think at some point you start having this energetic awakening of feeling, and the mediumship too, feeling that energy, at the base of your spine and going up and out through your body type of thing.
Beautifully put. You're beautiful. The experience is beautiful. Thank you for, sharing it. Yes, seriously. I agree. It's like just a more energy rich experience. Mm-hmm. How did it change your mediumship too? You say it you could feel it coming up through the base of your spine and you could just feel things more. So how did it change the way that you read? There's like, the obvious component, but like, I'm curious in your personal experience.
Yeah. And I would have to nod to trance. I was doing a session with a girl earlier today. It was a free session because she's in my group, one of my Tony groups. But I think the Kundalini and the trance kind of go in hand, because allowing myself to surrender more deeply to, I was going to say an external source, but it's really not. It's more about an internal source, and allowing yourself to really sink into and surrender to that feeling of being one with the divine energy, whether it's Kundalini or whether it's spirit energy, and just allowing yourself to, it's allowed me to blend deeper with the spirit world, and allowing that complete surrender and trust of allowing spirit to entrance me, or the Kundalini energy of feeling that energy deeper. And for my readings and mediumship, it's allowed me to feel more of the essence of the spirit and the spirit world as I bring them close to me, if that makes sense.
Yes.
In a way. Yeah.
Yes. That beautifully put again. So within your soul coaching too, how do you feel like you hold space for women being deeper in your body, being more connected, being more energy sensitive?
Being more grounded in my energy, and being present, for trying to be a better listener, but trying to just be fully present. So at a retreat scenario, or if I'm working for a client, I feel like I'm holding space for them. I'm holding this container of energy for people to do their own healing work, or their own, transformation work, or whatever it is. So soul coaching has helped me be more grounded and more centered in what I'm doing. I'm not always grounded, because, as mediums, we all want to be out with the fairies, right? It's like, because that's where it's fun. That's why trance is so wonderful, because you're just way out there, with the fairies, and so, trying to be more centered and more grounded in what I'm doing, and helping, and trying to come from a place of authenticity, through that process as well.
You do actually have, so when I feel you and I think of you, you have a lot of airy energy, but you do have a lot of grounding energy, because you really do walk the walk. You do put so much time and heart into, becoming the best version of you. Like, that definitely just radiates from your heart and your spirit and what you're able to do for people. So I definitely feel that from you very strongly. Within your healing work too, can you talk about how you connect as a healer with, whether it's Usui or holy fire or anything else that you've incorporated?
Yeah. It's interesting, because I took Reiki 1 years and years ago, and I never really went with it. My husband and I did it years ago in Durham, North Carolina, and wasn't a big deal. And I wanted to get my Reiki 2, and I ended up certifying Reiki 1 and 2 out in Sedona with an amazing man and woman. She's actually now deceased, his wife. And but anyway, so I feel like it's been an evolution for me when I did Reiki 1 and 2, and then became a Reiki master. It's also intertwined. I know you know this, Kelly, but it's also intertwined in each other. And it's not like I woke up one day and said, "Oh, I want to be a healer," because again, there's, oh my God, I don't heal anybody. I help people heal themselves, by being a conduit. But, the holy fire Reiki, and I don't see a difference. The more I do trance energy and trance healing, I don't see a big difference in what happens when I work on somebody. I just go into almost an altered state, and I just allow the spirit world, whether it's Reiki or my guides or their guides, to just take over and do the job. Go through me, and do the job, and go in and heal whatever needs to be healed in that individual, as I'm doing it. So I feel like the Reiki blends really nicely. I know you didn't ask about the trance healing, but I feel like it blends together. And when I'm working as a healer with people, I think it's the same energy, but it may be a little bit different. It's all coming from the same place, right?
It's all coming from the same place. Yeah. Like, sometimes it's different access points, or sometimes
Right.
it's different understandings of tools, but honestly, it's all from the same place,
Right.
just whatever you feel called to do, like you said. But yeah, like with the trance healing, because I feel like with certain techniques, you have to let go a lot more. And the more you let go, I guess you do make room for whatever works, even though you don't realize you're sometimes doing it.
Yeah. We were doing Reiki one night. There was 4 or 5 of us in a local center here. I was offering a Reiki share. And my husband was there that night too, so he could testify to this. But we literally were doing Reiki on a lady in my neighborhood who's no longer with us. She had cancer. But I swear we felt the table move. Like we were all just doing our own thing. Nobody was, and we literally felt the table moving, like this energy was, I don't know if it was lifting it or shifting. I don't know what was happening. It was crazy. But, it was just, so I think if
It's
you get
real.
out of,
It's real.
yeah, you get out of your own way and just allow them to go through you and do whatever needs to be done. And, some people get hung up on what kind of Reiki is this and what kind of Reiki is that? Is holy fire better than? It's not. It's all, energy's energy, right? And it's all the same. So,
Energy is energy. And excuse me.
yeah.
Sorry about that. I had a little bit something in my throat, but I do really feel like when, sometimes tables move or you can feel things like move and change, I do feel like it's just highlighting how you're realigning, you know? You're
Mm,
realigning someone's field, or sometimes timeline, or sometimes just it's not just them you're realigning, everyone's
right.
realigning, and it's just like you can feel the way that matter is shifting. I totally believe in that.
Yeah, it's
It's
awesome. Hmm.
I love it. So within trance healing, and trance mediumship, when did you decide to go to that level where you were working with things where you were allowing spirit to come into your field on a different level? When did you decide to start that journey?
About 4 years ago, I had been introduced actually through Lisa. She had told me early on when I was certifying that I had some, I don't know, similarities or something to do with reading and something to do with my energy while I was reading and stuff that was very similar to Tony Stockwell or something like that. Not that I'm comparing myself to Tony, but you all have similarities, in different things. So I had started following Tony, and he was offering trance mediumship. And I know I had done a short course with him, and I didn't know that much about it. And I think that what I really wanted to do was to be able to surrender more, because I'm a very control person. Like I like to be in control. I'm sure you saw that during certification, but I like to be in control. I like everything to be really predictable, and I got to understand. So for trance, it was more about me just letting go and surrendering myself completely and totally to the spirit world and to an unknown.
May I say that it's so interesting, because I was aware of, how you use the element of your mind, but I felt like maybe because, there's so much going on that you were like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going with it. So I
Yeah.
felt like you were so surrendering, and that's why you were so good that, that's why I was like, gosh, you're so natural, because you're just like, hands up in the air. I guess we're doing this. Like it
So
kind of
fun.
felt like that. That's what I was getting from you more than the Virgo. So it's kind of fascinating though.
And I would have
Yeah.
never thought that, because I thought I was so stressed out during the whole process of not
The
letting
stress
go.
was making you go like, just
Yeah.
gotta,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So 4 years ago. I started in a year-long program of trance. We would meet, we would sit in trance, and and I love trance because it's like watching paint dry. You literally it's you literally just surrender and you go into this space, altered space, and something might happen, something might not happen. You have people watch you and they tell you, oh my God, your face did this and that, and I don't know. But I love that on my end, it was just going into this deep, deep place. And then I did 1 year, and then I wanted to do a second year. And interestingly enough, I was talking about this earlier today. Every Monday at 11:30, I sat with the same group for 3.5 years. And one girl is a medium that I really love and respect, Gurdeep Bogle. She's an awesome person. Gurdeep has been studying with Tony for a while, and George Curry. I think you may know George, who's no longer with us. And every Monday, the four of us sat in trance for an hour, hour and a half to see what happened. And trance is a slow thing. You've got to really stick with it. It's something that you have to continually do to see, I don't know, the benefits is not the right word, but to see progression, because, there are trance mediums in England that have been sitting for what, decades and decades.
20, 30, 40, yeah, plus.
Yeah. But it's allowed me to surrender more. It's allowed me to do something without an outcome. It's allowed me to feel, like I think I said earlier, that blend even more with the spirit world. I had a occasion to work with a woman right after I don't know how long I'd been doing trance, and her daughter literally blended with my energy and made me feel exactly what happened the night of an automobile accident. And as hard as it was for me to tell the mother in front of me what was happening, obviously with her permission, but it was what she thought she knew, but she didn't know. And I believe that that was because I was able to surrender enough in that moment to allow that girl to give information to her mother about what happened that night. And I don't know if I hadn't done trance and continued with trance, would I be able to blend as effectively as I do now? Not every reading is that great, but it just happened to be that particular girl. I mean, I felt like I was in the car with her at that moment. It was crazy what was happening, in a good way, but
Right. It was just so deeply in your body, you were there.
yeah, exactly. That sense, that feeling of, from start to finish that night with her experience. So
Trance is incredibly powerful. It really is. And it is I was laughing when you said it's like watching paint dry, because it takes time, correct? But when you really see people who have been sitting for 20, 30 years. I haven't seen a lot of trance demonstrations. I haven't, but I've seen, like, a handful. But, like, for instance, like Tony, I've seen Tony do trance, and some amazing things, some amazing things are present, where it wasn't like watching paint dry. It was like
yeah,
your brain's gonna explode, because you're like, this is possible, you know?
true.
So you get the contrast of that, the paint drying with the whoa.
That's true. That's true. The first time I ever experienced trance was with Lisa Williams in her house in Lilydale upstairs, small group of us. And she gave us her phone and her safe word, and off she went. And I had never seen anything like that in my life. I was like, oh my gosh. It was just, so when you see people that are authentic and really know what they're doing, the thing with Tony, when he goes into trance, it's almost, when I'm in that energy and feeling it coming through him, it's like a calling home for me. It's like this Zentar, and this feeling of knowing of a place that we have been before and sensing it and feeling it again. It's intoxicating. I guess is a really good word for it.
Yeah, you're just like, wow, this is possible. And there's a reason that you were led to working with him more, so that
Yeah,
just furthers that feeling of home. But
exactly.
yeah, so many different styles. I agree. Like the first time I saw trance mediumship was with Lisa too, and
Yeah.
that blew my mind. It's just
Hmm.
it's a whole conversation. I could go into it.
There you go. That's
Um,
another
for,
hour.
for real. I want to quickly say hi to like Desiree and Karen and Michael Christopher and La Lima. I love that name, La
Oh
Lima.
yeah.
So we take questions too sometimes. So scrolling kind of at the top, someone I thought embodied kind of the humor of the Kundalini energy. They were where is it? All of a sudden, I saw the comment, and now I can't find it.
Uh-oh.
Oh gosh, I don't know. They made some comment where they said the terrifying truth, ha ha ha, with Kundalini and what it is. I'm
That's
like, hey, testify, right?
that's right.
And someone for real, Karen asks, do you have issues going in large crowds with all the energy, the good and the bad? I just can't. It's like I can't see the good and the bad. It's like I can see the good and the bad that they've done. So wow, she's talking about her difficulty. So what is your experience when you're in groups, whether it's retreats or large crowds or demonstrations? How do you deal with the energy and how it makes you feel?
I remember the first time I did a demonstration. I remember walking in the room and I was with another medium and it felt like bees stinging me. It was the weirdest feeling. I never experienced it before. Walked into the room and I just felt like little bees all over my body stinging me. And it was just the energy was so strong. Now, this is going back a few years, probably about 4 or 5 years. But I'll answer the retreat question first. I've been doing that for a while and I love it. And I have to ground again, back to grounding and saging and making sure I'm staying in my body and staying present and not going off into the energy of what's happening. I'm kind of a silent observer when people are doing their work. So I'm kind of like observing, not absorbing. Now, mediumship is a little bit different, and I will say I've not done a lot of demonstrating because it terrifies me. truth
Understandable.
truth be told, I got up at the stump. They pushed me out at the stump in Lilydale. I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this. So I would say, first of all, the only thing that triggered me in that comment, good and bad energy. I don't know. Is there bad energy? I don't look for bad energy. I only look for good energy. And I think energy's energy. So what I would say was practice. You just have to put yourself out there and do it. I had to do platform work in Canada a few weeks ago at this workshop. And when he said, everybody's going to get up and do platform, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. Ask Lisa the first time. She asked us to do platform. So I don't know. I'm trying to answer that question. I think you just need to put yourself out there. I think you just need to do it and ask your guides to have your back. Allow me to feel what I need to feel in the situation to be able to do the demonstration and just hold the rest of the stuff away for right now. I don't need to feel anything else. Just allow me to feel the spirit energy, the pure spirit energy, and allow it to come through me and do the work that I'm here to do. And everything else just needs to be, I don't want to feel it, and I don't know if that works, but that would be what I would do.
Yeah, you don't have to feel it, you
Yeah.
are in charge of your experience. Sometimes things hit us over the head, but
Mhm.
after that we can go, hey, I'd rather not have that again.
Yeah.
Let's work with it another way. And I
Right.
do think like as empaths, sometimes, or healers, we can sometimes pick up on what needs to be healed, like
Mhm.
within a person, or we're aware of, let's say, a spirit with how that they were growing. So sometimes I know certain mediums sometimes, or even psychics or healers, they're aware because of the way that they grew up of sometimes the bad, even though they're just trying to help. So then they absorb that energy and then they're like, I don't like this. Like, I
Right.
really don't like the experience. And I agree with you, Felicia. It's about, where do you put your energy? Because if you're focusing on the good, then you can work with that. You
Right.
know, if we're focusing on the bad, we're going to get experiences that highlight that, and it is going to destabilize us.
Right. Right. I've done some psychic detection work and I love it, but I don't like it. I love it. I love the thrill of it. Um, and I've always said, like, I can help. I was in a class with Tony at Omega, and there were some psychic some people there from the federal government actually that were looking for help on the case. And I said, it's okay for me to help you, but I don't want to see the graphic stuff that's happened to this person, or if they're
Right.
in a container or something, without going into detail. So I'm very clear with my guides about what I want them to show me and what I don't want them to show me. So I can interpret something happening to a person, but I don't have to feel it or sense it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can know it without, yeah. But working in crowds, I think if you really want to do platform mediumship or you want to go into large groups, obviously take, a class with somebody like Lisa, or I don't think Tony teaches platform, but, take a class and get used to putting yourself out there and being able to be in that container to deliver energy without being thrown off by what's happening in the room. Because
I
when you
agree.
start, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm listening
No, I
to
was
you.
just going to say, when you start, especially, when you look at a person and you're reading their body language, if you're an empath like I am and you are, and oh my God, this person, I'll give you a great example. I was leading a group in my neighborhood, and I was doing a meditation, and I thought this woman could not be interested at all in being here. I don't know why she's hearing. And my mind is, she sends me a note later on and she says, oh my God, your meditation was amazing. And the whole evening was wonderful. And I'm so happy I came and I can't wait to come again. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So you just can't get wrapped up in the way people are presenting themselves, because it's about them. It's not about you. Right. So.
Right. No, we might never, the way someone acts might be completely foreign to anything we've ever experienced. And they might be having the most amazing time and they're so grateful to be there, but they're like, processing something where it seems like they're miserable.
Exactly. Yeah.
And really they're just, we really never know. But I think that's important, and it's great to talk about it, because you've done so many retreats where you're with people for extended periods of time where their stuff is going to come up. And
yes.
You're with different personalities, so you're very much dealing with like a crowd, the good and the bad. You're dealing with synergy. You're there for it all, and you're guiding it.
And there's nowhere to hide.
There's nowhere to hide. Together,
I used to worry about making sure that everybody had a great experience, or everybody was happy, or everybody got what they came for. And I realized very quickly that it's not up to me. Again, it's up to them. Everybody gets out of a retreat what they need to get out of the retreat. And all I need to do is just show up, be authentic, and do my work, and hold a space for them to heal or whatever it is they need to do. Because I'll give you a really good example. Years ago, I had a woman at a retreat, and the same thing. I'm like, why is she here? I've got many stories, but one in particular, this woman was so unhappy the entire retreat. She was with a bunch of friends, and I didn't know until I was riding home in the car with my mother, who starts to tell me that this woman's son, this is before mediumship, her son had been on a balcony that collapsed and he died. And so I had no idea what this woman was going through that entire weekend, and she deserved to be angry, upset, whatever it was, and I realized. Then I had another girl, I tell this really quickly, she was same thing, like, just terrible at a receipt at the retreat, and she was very overweight. Her friend brought her back to another retreat a few years later. And it's funny, this is a friend I was telling the story about in Florida. She was a good friend to a lot of people, but this girl had lost over 150 pounds. She had come back to the retreat and told me, you have no idea how impactful that retreat experience was for me. And it led me to go home, have a gastric bypass, lose all of this weight, and become the person I am now. If you'd have asked me at the conclusion of that retreat, I'm like, she got nothing out of this retreat.
Wow.
And it was the complete opposite situation, right? So we just can't, I guess, put ourselves in the place of thinking, that we know what we're doing for people. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now, but
No, you're not. No, it makes sense.
It's just a matter of, again, showing up, being authentic, and doing the work, and then allowing people to get what they need to get from your experience, whether it's a mediumship reading, it's a psychic reading, a soul reading, a healing, whatever it is. So
it's I love those stories, and I do think they highlight an important point, because think about all the times, and I do feel like, if someone's really sensitive and they're aware of other people, there's been probably a good degree of people haven't been able to meet them back, so they feel very misunderstood a lot. So think about all the times within our own lives, everybody, if you can, like when you've been so deeply misunderstood, and how easily that happens. And it's just like, even if you're able to catch a couple of things that's going on with a person, or even 10, which is fantastic, or even 20, there's a whole world going on,
right,
within a person with what they're going through. And we just don't fully have an idea unless we are just so beautifully connected to them. And those are, truly profound, special experiences. And we just really have to have a lot of just grace with what's going on with people. We just don't know. We do our best, but we don't know. But that stuff's amazing. You've transformed people's lives, and you're like, I didn't see that coming. They were going through something.
That's true. I know. Well, because I'm such an empath, and I'm feeling, I'm making it about me. And, when I have a bad reading, my husband's my greatest fan. I'll have a bad reading and I'll go down and I'm just like, oh, I'm so upset. And he said, it's not about you. You're making it about you. It's not about you. It's about the spirit world. And they just weren't ready to come through. And it's true. We can't make it about us. We have to make it about the greater good of what we're trying to do. And you're right. You have no idea what somebody's going through at the time. I had another little girl at a retreat years ago, and she was in a really bad space. And I don't want to be too specific, but, it just blew my mind after I realized what was going on with her. This was kind of her last ditch effort to try and live or be with the living. And she was in a really bad place, but I had no idea that was happening. And as an empath, we're so sensitive to the needs of other people, sometimes to our detriment, I think,
Yeah, yes. Yes, absolutely. But I think the biggest not the biggest, but one of the main takeaways is, because we started on this, like, okay, well, what's good and bad energy, right? And how do we deal with sometimes groups and different situations, and what's really going on? And I think it always helps in every situation, if we have some sense of stability within our own lives, like even if it's a shred, to lean into just being around situations where we can learn more about energy and open up our mind, because it gets better. It gets better. It really does. And spirit will guide us into situations, whether retreats or classes, where it's like, look here, experience that. And yeah, we can't plan that stuff. We have to just trust it.
Yep.
I want to have, forgive me for jumping, but I want to know where people can find you, like your website, and I want to know what kind of classes you have going on, or offerings, whether with what readings you're focusing on right now, where people can be a part of that too as well.
Okay. So currently, as you had said, I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. And, since COVID, I've really been working at home. I've gotten really comfortable, and like we work in our pajama bottoms, and stuff like that. But I am starting to do in-person stuff again, which is really exciting. I have actually a really good friend that I attuned to Reiki. So she has an office space, and I'm going to start doing some in-person work, in her office as well. So mainly, my focus is I do, mediumship readings. I do a soul reading, which is a little over an hour long. And the soul reading, I've kind of brought soul coaching into that. I do a bit of a soul journey, and I do some cards, and I do a little bit of psychic information. Sometimes we go into past lives, or sometimes we go into, current life situation, but that's more of a more in-depth reading. And then I do trance healing and Reiki if you're in the Wilmington area. But as you know, I can do Reiki and trance healing long distance. I think it's easier when it's done in person, but I do work with people long distance as well via Zoom. And I'm getting ready to teach a beginner's mediumship class that starts September 11th. That's going to be online. So that's on my website. So FeliciaGrant.com. Pretty easy is my website. That has my information and the courses on there. And then I do two retreats a year. I have one coming up in October, which is sold out. Small group of women. And then I have a retreat in April of 2024 that's going to be in Costa Rica. So I'm going back to Costa Rica for the second time. I was there in 2017, and that will be at Pura Vida Resort and Spa, which was the place that I had gone to before. So all of that's on my website, all that good stuff. So again, FeliciaGrant.com. And then I have a Facebook page as well that I try and put stuff, and Instagram. And I haven't done TikTok yet. I'm not TikTok, but I do have an Instagram, Felicia Grant Medium, I think is my Instagram as well. So I try and put everything on there. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And I have all that listed on my website. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Costa Rica. That sounds fun. Also too, before we depart, I always give, our guest, like the final word. So Felicia, what would you say from the heart, or if you have something like that you frequently feel like is like wisdom you'd like to share that you hold as well, whatever just naturally comes up. Some people pull a card sometimes. It's whatever you want to share.
Interesting. So I knew you were going to ask that question because you obviously had sent me the info. So I printed something because I absolutely love this quote, and our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. And it goes on. This is a quote by Marianne Williamson. So what I would tell people is, don't let fear stand in your way. I let fear stand in my way for a long time, of allowing me to embrace who I really was and am. And, if there wasn't a lighthouse on the point with the light shining really brightly, ships would be crashing into the shore. So I would say, be the light. Don't let, don't dim your light for anybody else. Sometimes we dim our light to allow others to shine brighter, but don't dim your light for anybody. Just shine as brightly, and don't let fear stop you from being the best version of yourself. And even if fear leads to something not happening, it's okay. Denise Linn used to say, fall down 7, get up 8. And so I plan, and if I fail, then I just move on and I plan again. So
gorgeous. I love it. Thank you for being a lighthouse Felicia, thank you so much. And you're welcome anytime. With that said, everybody, we will be back next week for the Psychic Hour, and we will see you then. Please go with love, luck, light, laughter, and don't forget to live. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thanks,
Felicia.
Kelly. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The truth is here and now on WLTKDB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.